I had sent Joe out some tapes, and he kind of returned the favor by sending me some pictures from out his ways, from Moline, Illinois. And maybe he's going to enjoy seeing these pictures that he sent me. Anyway, this is his Banshee. Thought I'd run that by. And he sent another funny picture in. And Collinsville, Illinois, name unknown. Well, Joe, I know who this is. This is Chris McMillan. And he built a plane real similar to this at my house. And this looks like a beauty. This looks like a replication of his plane. Now, there's a long story behind this. Chris was living by my house. He had built this plane, the Golden Eagle, and he wanted to build a Sidewinder. And somehow, I don't remember when or how, if we ever did get the wings. I don't know. This looks like it has a lot of rake. It has the look of a Sidewinder wing. And I hope that is. And I just sold some stuff to Chris, so I hope I'll be talking to him soon. And I'll find out if I can get some other pictures of this. In the meantime, I'll pass these on to Stunt News. And thanks a lot from Joe. Kenny brought over an article for this from Model Airplane News, from one of the RC magazines, on making covers for the wheels. Now, there's a good reason. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, yeah, pretty cool. One of the things I had envisioned for this plane, but I guess it's not going to work, but Kenny might want to do it on his, is making up some like imitation Banner wheels. Banner wheels are really, really heavy. They're about 4 times the weight of Dave Brown wheels, and in the past I had made up some what I'll call hubcaps, for lack of a better word. Anyway, this looks like it's just another technique, but it just shows you when you really want something, how inventive you have to get. Sometimes you even have to read other magazines or go to other sources or whatever, but we're going to look at this, and we're certainly going to be trying to make up some nice set of wheels for that Nobler in the future. And we also would accept any donation of free Banner wheels from anybody. I'll take them from President Nixon. Anyway, more technology. Banner wheels. See, now, if Kenny only knew where I hid these. These are a set of phony Banner wheels. They really aren't Banner wheels. They have little plywood hubcaps, similar to what they're talking about in this article. But anyway, this would be the look, if you wanted to capture that look of that, I don't know, 50s Nobler. Actually, the real George Aldrich Nobler, the one we're making a copy of, looks like it had these wheels on it. More to come. More wheels, more choices. Just let me get a look at this, even though that's the look, baby. 20 bucks each. These are Dave Brown wheels with little plywood hubcaps, but it really, that's about as close as you can get without having to pay list price.
That works.
Okay, not too bad. The reason we keyed in on the wheels, we had made the wheel pants for this on the last tape. Finished this guy up, and I was kind of satisfied the way it came out. It really has the look. Again, it's that look that I'm looking for more than anything else. And I wanted to be able to take these off. That's a technique you could use on really on any plane, even a Nobler. I wanted the gear to be pretty close together, not standing way out. I didn't want big giant landing gear on a plane. I think that would take away from the look. Anyway, more to come. We got to start cleaning up the shop, but I just wanted to get all that stuff that was in today's mail on the tape, and we'll pick this up tomorrow and see what's happening. Now, one of the things that's always a problem for everybody, including me, time management. And it's something I guess you can learn, whether it's for your business life, social life, personal life, doesn't really matter. One of the things in time management, and I've been trying to help Ken get a little bit better efficiency on this, is you go to build a plane like anything else. Now, what he's running into now is every day he's got his Nobler, and you put a coat of clear on it, you do some sanding, and you basically get to some point in the day and you're just sitting there waiting for the next step. Well, one of the things that I like to do, and I've done it in the past, but I just want to make this part of this video, is I try to make any part of the plane, in this case the tail, get that into filler. Now, while that's drying, I worked on the body, made up the little wheel pants. Okay, I haven't even started the wing yet. But what this allows me to do is, all of the filler that's been on that plane has been on there a couple of weeks. Well, it's going to be real nice and easy to sand and put the final touch-ups on. Now, while I'm doing that, I can be getting a coat, and this is what I'm going to do this morning. I got up this morning, and this is one of the things I try to get across to people. It's a lot easier to get some of the filler on the plane so that you have a part to work on. Because it's real difficult, and this is what Ken is running into with the Nobla. And he ran into it yesterday, in fact. You sand for 5, 6, 7 hours, and you're really tired. You get to a point, I don't care who you are, if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you just get to the point where you're tired. So what happens is, now I haven't run into that yet, but what's going to happen today is, I want to sand the filler out on this. And I'll give myself, a couple hours to get that real nice and neat, do the touch-ups. But while I'm working on that, I want to get outside while the weather looks half decent anyway, and get the first coat of filler on these parts. Now you see what I'm trying to get at is I can sand this part the day this is drying, sand this part the day that this is drying. Because I'm not going to work on this a whole day. I'm going to flip-flop back and forth. But eventually both of these pieces are going to be done. And then when they're done, I'm going to lay out the wing. The wing takes the most time of all. But one of the things it's going to allow me to do, it's like free lunch. I'll have the tail put into the body by then. The tail will already be installed. Virtually all of the sanding, except maybe for some of the small little touch-ups and the fillets, will be done. When you can work on a plane in parts, and you can hold a plane in your hand and hold a wing on a table, it's so much easier than having this big plane that's gawky and you're banging into things and poking holes in it. Again, Ken ran into this yesterday, and this is why I thought it was important to put on the video. You wind up that you're banging into the fuselage, bang as you try to get into the rudder and try to get up in here, and the landing gear in the way and the wheels are in the way. One of the things, time management, one of the things you can do is by building a plane and getting the paint on it in as many big parts as you can save time. And this is one of the reasons we're able to, at least in this shop, build 5, 6 planes a year or do whatever it is that we do here, because we do it kind of efficiently. When it comes to, if we had a race and you were sanding out this plane, it was all in one piece, and I said, okay, sand out a coat of filler. And I have the plane in pieces, and I just need to take this, and this. I'm going to beat you by so much it's ridiculous. Now, there's a little downside, of course. When we put this in the body, we're going to have to make the fillets and then touch up this little area here. But the point is, this is a good time to mention it. It's a good time to, anybody that hasn't seen all of the old videos where we've developed this over the course of many years, and it would even be significant if you wanted to make a take-apart plane, only for the reason that you could take these parts apart and work on them. It is so difficult, at least for me, now maybe not for other people, to work on a plane that's all assembled into one piece. Very, very difficult. When it's in pieces, it's so easy. And I thought, being we had this problem with Ken yesterday, not a problem, but he's just running into the thing of it's taken an incredible long amount of time to sand out a coat of clear. When I'm at this stage, I'm not even at that stage yet of still putting filler, and I'm doing this at my convenience, and it's a piece of cake. It's really a whole lot easier. So if you have a choice and you know about both methods, you do the one that suits you best. But I guarantee you, if you did it this way once, you'd never go back and do it that way. Another thing, another thought, and I don't even know how really to explain this other than to just make a little diagram. What I'm trying to achieve with this plane, a couple of things I'm trying to achieve. I want to have the plane as obviously as nicely finished as possible. No matter what I'm building or what I'm doing, I want my kitchen cabinets to be as nice as possible. But what I'm trying to do is do it in a very small time window, in a very small time frame. And I really have, it's just hard to get across, I guess, in one stroke of the pen. What I'm trying to get is, I want to try to get a nice finish on this, but not one that's all-consuming. I certainly am not going to put the kind of time into this that I put into the Seafire, the Spitfire, Strega. What I'm looking for is quick. Now, by glassing this whole body, virtually this whole body is glassed. And this is what I'm going to do as soon as I end this storyboard. It's sanded, it's glassed. I'm going to mix up some of that silver filler, which has proved to be a real time saver. I don't know if it's the way you would want to do your big stunt ship, your big super killer world champion plane, but I know it's quick. I know that formula has probably cut my sanding down to about 1/3. The reason being is the silver filler really picks up the mistakes, and I've been picking away at it, trying to get it as smooth as possible, and possibly in 1 or 2 coats. Now I'm going to know when I sand out this next coat of silver. I've already got one sanded out, and I've got some little spots touched up. But I think I might be able to do it in 2 sand outs, and I might even be able to do it in 1 if I had spent just a little more time on the wood. And I think what really is going to happen on the next one of these that we make, kind of an experimental guy, is we're going to do the fiberglass on the whole plane. And that adds so little weight when it's done right, it's ridiculous. But what it does, it totally fills in the grain. Now, when that's sanded out, that's the equivalent of sanding everything right up to the silver in 1 stroke of a pen. So again, if you're looking for quick, this is something you might want to try. Now, what had been running through my mind, and I'm still not sure we're going to do this, I wanted to make a scale tail for the next Seafire. And because the tail is kind of it's an elliptical shape, it's got cross members in it. To make this like we made the old Seafire Spitfires all geodetically, this is really, really labor intensive. I mean, this gets into weeks, not days. What I've been thinking about doing, and this was 1/2 inch by the way, again, I'm going to do this soon, probably maybe by the end of this video I'll even have a little test. I want to make a much more scale-like tail. Now Bob Martens has already sent me a drawing of that tail, which would be a lot more scale. Basically it has the curve from one side to the other, as opposed to our piece that had that. But that piece is going to be 3/8 solid wood, and what I've been waiting for is to find a decent piece of wood. And by having it one solid piece of wood, I want to take this whole deal and glass it. I want to take the elevators and glass them the same way. See, I'm trying to pick up some of the ideas from this. I want to glass it, and what I want to try to do then is give it maybe 1 coat of clear. Maybe we'll go to 1 step better than this profile, and then right then and there put the silver filler on and see if I can get this, which would be a 3-step. In an all-perfect world, it would be glass, 1/2 ounce cloth glass. At the end of the glass, sand out, and it would be possibly 1 coat of clear, maybe, and then silver filler. Well, you can see right here that by the time you get to where it's silver and you can pick out the mistakes, there's only 3 real steps. And that's what I'm trying to... This is, again, all of the things I'm focusing on are trying to make the planes quicker to build, easier to build, nicer, shinier, yes. But in some way, to make them that they're not so time-consuming to build. Now, we've got the wings down to where we can build a wing easily. Robert's built one. Ken's built one. I'm trying to think who else. There's 4 or 5 other people that have come down to the shop and built a wing in 1 day and gone home with a wing with the bell crank in it, ready to put the tips and flaps on. Almost anybody is able to do that now. The next step from that is to try to eliminate some of this filler stuff, all this tissue and filler and coats of clear and everything. And yeah, if you're working on a ship with money and time are no object, yeah. But I want to build a lot of ships this year. And we've been thinking about even making a little profile Olympic. We're going to be talking to Bob Gildini about that real soon. That's another thought we've had. But if we can cut the time down, think of what this allows us to do. By cutting down the time to build each plane, instead of building 3 or 4 or 5 planes a year, maybe we can build 10. Maybe we can build more. I don't know. This, I think, is going to be one of the things that's going to carry over into the next Spitfire project, the next big full-size stunt ship of whatever kind. Again, I'm going to try to make that scale-like tail. I'm going to try to get this finishing down. And by doing this, now I'll know if I can get this to be the same weight as this and it's still in real good silver, I think I'll have accomplished something. And then that can become part of the new finishing video that we're going to do. Oh, it's for sure just one of the things that's always a time saving is when you have parts of the plane you can take off and sand separately. This is so important. So many times I wish, boy, if I could only, you know, develop or make a take-apart plane, it would just save, it would almost save the time of making the take-apart plane when you're putting a really hot finish on it. But in this case, it's having these little wheel pants removable. Oh, if you had to sand these and do the fillet while that wing is there. So I'm real happy about the way this part of it turned out. And again, this is the thing we're trying to work on so hard, is to try to get some gains in that finishing procedure so we can put really nice finishes on planes in a quick hurry that aren't too heavy and aren't using a bunch of toxic things. Doable things. And one of the things this profile has given me a chance to do is do a lot of little tests of things that I've wanted to test for a long time, just haven't had a plane to test. Now one of them is these little wheel pants. How easy it'll be to sand these when they're fillered out, get the body filler coated out. It'll be a piece of cake. It'll be a lot less work than if you're trying to work in, oh, you're always going to be catching that with your leg and your arm. And so easy. If you could only think of this ahead of time, it saves so much time. Now, after just doing a little test here, turned out to be such a beautiful day out there. I almost wish we were going flying. Anyway, I put on a very light coat of silver, and what it does, it really shows up the mistakes almost instantly, the silver filler. So what I'm going to do, I made up a little thing just to plug in the wheel pants. But again, so easy, much easier to work on this. I'll put this out in the sun to dry and get some filler on this guy. Due to our total credibility on video, I have to be honest, I haven't drained this thing in probably a couple of years. And look, the switch, here's what happened. The shut-off switch was full of water, and of course it wasn't shutting off. And the little diaphragm was corroded. Now if you have a compressor that doesn't shut off and you haven't drained it, you're as dumb as Wendy. Anyway, look at that junk come out of here. Wow, worse than changing the oil.
This is the hole we had to clean.
Yeah, the little tiny hole. We had to run a jet drill down there.
Clean that out.
A little diaphragm. You can see where the water and rust was.
It was letting in like that there.
And George the master, I'm telling you, the master, says he can fix anything. Yeah, that's the whole deal. All we got to do is put it back to famous last words. All we got to do. Drain your compressor after every use by advice. To go in the air compressor business. You want to buy this nice air compressor? Hey, seriously though, I learned a valuable lesson today, as we all do from time to time. Trying to paint this little profile, and the compressor just wasn't shutting off. It's a problem. Believe it or not, we never did get the compressor fixed. We couldn't get that switch to work the way we wanted, so I just ordered a new switch. I had George down there standing as the automatic shut-off switch. But it's such a nice day. I wanted to get some paint on here. And that's another thing about time management. You really don't want to waste a day. I don't want to spend a day like today washing the car or anything. I want to spend a day like today getting some paint out in the sun to dry. This silver filler really looks like it's going to be part of my future anyway. Cover's nice. Shows the mistakes real well, and that's the purpose of all of this anyway. Anything you paint silver, you really do see the mistakes right away. No doubt about that. Funny, this thing looks so good until you paint it silver, and then all of a sudden, forget it. What a day. Should be going flying today. Well, I didn't hear the compressor blow up. Didn't blow up yet, George? The adventure never ends. It just never ends. What? Compressor maintenance by Wendy. Never drain your tank. Smells good, huh? Hey, that's looking good. Over there even mowing the grass today, I don't believe it. I'm trying to get a second coat on this right away, on the edges especially. So nice to be outside for a change. It really is nice. Get plenty in by the motor. It didn't blow up yet. I didn't hear any explosion, huh? Oh, it's a thing of beauty when the silver's cooking in the sun. Yeah, we give this a day or two to dry. Now in today's mail, after our great exploding compressor episode, finally got that squared away, and had to buy the parts in the end. What a pain in the ass. Anyway, from France today, nice set of pictures from the world, not from the World Championships, the European Championships. This is Pierre Alberola, hope I'm saying it right, holding his ready-to-fly stunner. Now you can buy these ships exactly like you see it here, ready to fly, for about $1,000 from the Ukraine. This one has a, I'm reading from his note, this one has a Discovery 60, and so far he said he's real satisfied with the performance. Now, Pierre just bought a Brodak Nobler kit, so I hope we're going to be seeing some pictures of that when it's finished. Obviously in F2B there's no builder to model rule, so all this is kind of cool and legit and everything. Another picture from the World Championships. This is Gilbert Berenger. He was 8th at the last World Championships. Showing here his beautiful quadrant. Note, very small flaps. Now I'm noticing myself, talk about small flaps. Big Jim would have a heart attack. Sato 50 for power. Beautiful semi-scale ship. Navy blue and white. Prefers a wood prop. Now this last one is from Anatoly Kalishnikov, and I got a funny letter. He said he drove 3,000 kilometers, I don't know how many miles it is, in an old car full of models. Hey, reminds me of Larry Scarinzi. Beautiful KA-10. This is similar, or maybe it's a replica of the ship that the Tom Dixon just had published. Beautiful finish, and he says world champion caliber performance. I appreciate the pictures from all the guys in Europe. Keep them coming, and we'll get back to work in the shop tomorrow. Another call, in fact I got 2 letters today from Pierre Alberola. This is his speed model with a dueling 29 at the European Championships. Another picture he sent, hey, it's an old hot rock. Torpedo 32 on ignition. Anyway, I appreciate all these European photos. Hey, and we will be passing all of these on to Stunt News. Amazing, never stops amazing me is when you let dope sit. This has been sitting probably a couple weeks. This just falls off. This powders off, and I'm guessing in an hour I'll have this whole piece sanded out. Actually, if I feel like it, I can put an extra coat on here. I don't even think it's going to need it. I think it's got enough on here already. But again, the 2 things that we're making some progress on with this silver filler is it really shows the mistakes very clearly. Gives you a real good indication of when you're getting ready to go through. And I'm going to try to leave on just enough that I'll have a base for my finish. So even a small gain here for being able to do these like quick finishes is real nice. But the whole test here, the whole key is when you're sanding and it's coming off like powder, you're pretty much home free all. I did a little bit of touch-ups. These are spots my fingernails were going into it, and again, as long as I'm going to sand it, this material too, the green putty, as long as you're going to let it dry overnight or a couple of days, let it sit. It's roughly an hour to sand this out, so I always try to get a gauge on just how long it takes me to do these things. And I want to leave on just a little more than I normally would, because this has only been sanded out once. It really isn't a final sanding. And it may be, when we join the wing and the fuselage and the tail, I'll want to put one more coat on here. I feel some spots could really use another coat, but I think I'll wait till I get the fuselage sanded out and then maybe do the whole thing as a unit. But overall, I think it's going to be fine. Now, I let this dry overnight in the garage. I don't really have a lot of time today. There's so much mail to do, but I wanted to get a little look at how it was drying up and maybe get some of this up on the tape. Maybe this will be of some value here. You can see there's some grain in this. This could have been sanded a little bit better, and because this isn't glass, I don't have any illusions that I'm not going to have to sand this. This will require at least 1 or 2 more sandings, but the body looks like I may sneak by with 1 more sanding. I don't know. Again, I'm going to try to get this sanded and sprayed out today. The body looks real good after 1 coat, but again, that was glass. That's the whole deal. Again, more to come. I'm going to sand this out off camera. There isn't much. It's just a redundant sand out. I have the tail sanded out, and then I want to decide what I want to do. Maybe put 1 more coat of filler on here. See, what I'm really trying to do is get this to cover in 1 coat. Well, yeah. You know, and maybe for 90% of the people, this would be fine. But being this is like a prototype model, maybe I'll just spend the extra time and put an extra coat on. I'll see how this sands out. Again, there's some little dings and dongs in here I can fill in with the green putty as I go along. And basically, I'm real happy the way these little wheel pants worked out. That's the one good thing that's come out of this. I really like the way that's going to work out. Anyway, let me get over there, get some sandpaper, and get sanding. You can see, even after just a few strokes with the sandpaper. See, what really should have happened with these wheel pants is I should have glassed them. I guess I'm just trying to get too far ahead of myself. But when you get the nice powder and you're not getting any gum, and even this is only dried 1 day. This is really only dried overnight, so. I don't know how we're going to fine-tune this system in the future, but I'm certainly thinking somewhere in the future we'll have this fine-tuned to where it'll be part of everything we do here. I think this is going to be the general direction we're going to go in the future, unless something even better comes along. And that's why you always have to experiment. You always have to just keep hammering away at it. You just can never figure, well, you're there and it's over and that's all there is to it. Now, it really is decent enough out there that I could paint if I wanted to. But I really would like to see there's a dry spot right there. If you can identify dry spots. Now, if you know ahead of time, which we really know there's going to be some dry spots in here, what I can do is give this 1 coat of clear and then a coat of silver filler, just to help seal it up a little bit. Notice how the light fly doesn't need any sealing at all. It's in pretty good shape. So anyway, that's looking like it's going to work. Now, I got a nice photo pack from Sam Shirota. Now, if you remember back a little bit, Sam Shirota had done a construction video for this plane. He made a little video. He sent me a copy, but I don't think he ever, that I know of, ever went out to sell it, but that was his original intention. Now he's got a finishing video as the follow-up. The name of the plane is the Mantis. and it looks real nice. I haven't reviewed the tape yet, but he sent me a 4-hour tape to check out. And anybody's interested in a copy of this, of course, give Sam Sherrod a member of Pampa and one of the top finishers. I know he can add to our knowledge base, and I'm really glad to see he's getting serious enough to get some of this stuff on tape. It's stuff that should be shared with the rest of the people in the stunt world, and he's a good one to do it. He doesn't hold back secrets or anything. I look forward to really reviewing that tape, and we'll get some of it maybe on the end of this tape or whatever. Anyway, Sam, appreciate it a whole lot, but I've got a... the mail today is unbelievable. You know, I always try to evaluate at this point in time just how far down I want to sand. I obviously don't want to sand all the silver filler off. This is just about, I feel, just about right now anyway. And then of course I'll just replicate this same amount. But if you sand back down to raw wood, yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose. You got to know just how much to leave on. Real helpful is I took a piece of this a piece of scrap 1/4 inch, put a radius on one side to make myself a little sanding tool that I can move the paper on. Because getting in this groove here is really relatively difficult to get that a smooth transition without a sanding block. Again, I'm trying to find all little ways of making this go as quickly as possible. But I don't want to really take any shortcuts that are going to make it a substandard job. And it's funny now, I used to listen, Bob Martens used to be one of the ones that always told me he loved to watch all these little sanding tools and sanding angles and how to hold a sandpaper and stuff. Well, that's part of it. And that's part of what you can get from anybody watching. If you watch a mason work and watch how he holds the trowel. If you watch a, you know, Pavarotti, watch how he stands up, or whatever. You know, you steal from the people the technology that they're willing to give you, even if they're not willing to give it to you. Anyway, these little sanding tools are always a big help. And even if you have to invent your own sanding tools along the way, it pays. It just happens to be that it's almost a nice day out there. It's almost paintable, in fact. So if we do get this finished today for some miracle reason, I would like to get another coat of silver on and then give it a couple of days to dry. But the way this is drying up, it's really sandable after one day, so it really hasn't been a problem so far. And it's right about at this stage in building that you wind up making that final commitment is just how nice of a finish you really want to have. If you're willing to spend a couple of extra days, a couple of extra hours, a couple extra minutes even, you can correct all little flaws, as many as you want, some of them, none of them, depending on what you're really trying to achieve in terms of a finish. If you really want that front row finish, and I actually don't see any reason there shouldn't be a front row plane, a profile front. Would that be something to just think of how many aggravated people you'd have? Put a profile in the front row. Oh, that would be nasty. Anyway, there have been some, again, beautiful profiles I can think of. Steve DeJulia's is absolutely #1, but there's been others that are just really, all the time that's spent is well spent, because you'll enjoy having that finish for as long as you have the plane. Anyway, I'm just so impressed. This sand's so nice after one day. The other stuff had dried a couple of days, so I wasn't impressed when it sanded nice. Look at this. This is what's happening all day long. President Nixon. Okay, the most important thing too, and I forgot to mention it when we were over by the sanding bench, is to radius all these edges off. All these edges, every time you sand, need to get radiused off, or you're not going to get that nice edge. Look at this phone. I don't believe it. Well, you would think I was President Nixon here.
Well, hello there. How many do we have?
Trick or treat. Let me see these kids. Whoa! See, now look, if you kids take all the candy, I get to eat everything that doesn't go. So take 2 each, okay? Because I don't need to get any fatter. Go ahead, help yourself. And don't throw eggs at our house this year, okay?
You sure can. Okay.
See, I eat all the candy that doesn't go to the kids, so. Okay, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't tell him to take two. I don't have enough.
If you don't think I'm going to get fat, anything left over here, I get to eat. John Brodak said I can eat this as soon as I'm done. Oh, my God. I'll only eat a few, babe. This is the truth. Today is Halloween. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, I'll get this whole thing sanded out today. Mails coming here by the bundle. Phones ringing off the hook. President Nixon is in costume. And I really do. What I wanted to make the point here, I've spoken about time management. There's one thing I normally don't do is do this kind of work late at night. But you know what? I want to finish this because I want to try to get some paint on here. It was predicting 2 days of rain, and what that would help my time management is this would be out there drying for 2 days, and I could be doing some other stuff. Maybe even tomorrow start working on that Spitfire tail. So, I wanted to mention one good trick. These are these little sanding sponges, but it could be a piece of foam. It doesn't even matter. It's a soft block. What I like to do on these surfaces, because they basically have a graded curve here. Everything is a very gradual curve. There aren't any straight lines. So if you use a hard block, yeah, there's some spots in here that are hard, but almost everything else has a gradual curve to it. So by using a soft block, you really do get, I think, a much nicer edge anyway. And you can see how quick that comes off. Now if it doesn't come off that quick, you know you're not doing something right. There's something wrong. And you should be calling or checking or whatever. Call and holler at me. Anyway, I want to get this finished. I really enjoyed having the kids here for Halloween, but boy, I have about 200 Milky Ways up there to finish tomorrow. So if you see me getting a little portly in the next video, you'll know what happened. You know, it's not from lack of sanding. This is an area here that's real good too. Now see, if we had to stab in there, what a pain in the neck this would be to sand and get real nice. But this, in one piece like this, it's a piece of cake. You can get right in there and get the fillet real nice. All little details there. And as long as you're seeing it powdering right off, it's not supposed to take a long time to do this. It's supposed to go kind of quick. Finally ready for silver. Okay, we're going to give this another coat, needless to say. But it really did sand out relatively easy. But I only think, I'm sure it's dark out there now. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this even tonight. Now you can tell it's already dark out there, and I'm going to have to paint the dark. I thought this was something. It's not impossible to paint the dark. The whole idea here is I can't paint the house. reason I put the push on this deal, working right past dark like this, because they're predicting 2 days of rain. And if we get 2 days of rain, I have a lot of other projects to work on. And this little puppy can be sitting out in the garage here just drying up a storm. See you tomorrow. So you may think you need ideal conditions, sunlight, 10% humidity. Nah, you really can paint in the dark. It really isn't as big of a handicap as you think it is. But of course it is a lot nicer, a lot easier. God forbid you should have some nice sunlight. Anyway, it's been a long day. Now I really find that this is a significant thing in my life, and I hope you'll take a minute and share this, because it may be something you can put to use in your own time too. I had a really bad experience with one of the fish here. In fact, here he is. He's still floating upside down a little bit. You see how he's floating upside down? And it really had me worried, because he has been a family pet for a long time. Now this is going back a week. He was floating like this, and John Pothier put out on the internet a little blurb about how to cure this, and we got back so many responses to it. It's embarrassing to see how many responses we got back. But I really thought he was a goner. He really had me worried for a while. And the people on the net have just been unbelievably good about giving me information. I even got a response from the University of California. The people that raise these fish, and I had gone to 2 or 3 different, well, I don't know what you call them, pet shops around here, and spoken to the person, hoping I could stumble on the, like the Windy of goldfish, but I never did. And what really happened, and to me it's unbelievable. Now see, both of them are floating upside down there now. What really happened is the cure that seems to have worked, and it worked last night well. These 2 big fish, the 2 big guys, were both laying on the bottom of the tank sideways as if they were dead. And I was almost crying. It was terrible. And what happened is the people that did this, the people on the internet, suggested cutting up some frozen peas and putting them in the water. Now you can see the water is all green and slimy looking, but the fish are doing great. Now the fish are swimming around. It looks like they're well on the way to recovering. In fact, the guy that was floating upside down for 5 days, he never went right side up, is now swimming around. And he looks like he's still a little buoyant there, but unbelievable. Unbelievable how nice the people on the net are. And every time I see him swim now, I know he's on the way to getting better. And for all the people on the internet that have helped me figure this out, and see, this is just one thing. I wish we really had the same thing for model planes on the internet. I wish we had, well, I don't know, maybe we do and I don't even know it, but the people that are concerned about the fish, and it's terrible that the water looks like pea soup, but I'm willing to live with the pea soup for a couple of days until the guys get better, and then I'll do a water change. And boy, oh boy, guys really had me worried here. And you can see they're even eating now, and it's so good to see a fish that he really was not doing well, and see him back swimming around and having fun. I don't know, I'm feeling good, John. I just wanted to put that on the tape, and I wanted to thank all the people on the net, and of course John for good advice, good help. And I've pretty much lost a week of sleep with these guys, but it looks like they're back to being, I don't know, pea soup eaters. I'll be looking forward to getting some fresh water changes in here, and I'm just glad they're better. Anybody that has a pet will know what I'm talking about. Hey, back to planes. And in today's mail, this came from Graham Bone from England, and he's showing off. I'm trying to read from his letter. They had a model demonstration in this park. It looks like they have a paved circle. I'm just wondering if this is where they take off from. Actually, most of the letter concerns the park. They were doing a control line demonstration. Hey, and I appreciate the photo. In fact, it looks like a Nobler. I'm not sure it is. It looks like it. This looks really cool, though. The checkerboard nose. That's something I've always wanted to do. Anyway, Graham Bone of England, and we're going to get back to the shop. We have really spent the better part of the last 3 or 4 days trying to help these fish get better. And again, John, thanks a whole lot. Thanks to everybody on the internet. Wow, I'm so impressed. I really am. I remember a couple of weeks ago we did this glass etching. I don't know if you still can see the glass etching. You can see it in real life. And we got some lights put in this cabinet, and it really does dress up the kitchen a little bit. Still happy the way that worked out. So on a day while I'm doing work around the house, it's really a great idea, being it's cold and rainy. Turn the heat up a little bit, get these parts, you see they're on top of the television, get them right up by a heating vent. Now, what typically happens with a dope finish, at this part anyway, within about 24 hours or so, sitting out in the garage, the smell is gone. So then it's safe for me to bring this in. I leave the heat up, and tomorrow that should be ready to put a final sanding on, and maybe even a final coat of silver, or we'll just have to see. Remember, heat and dry air heat is always dope's best friend. Can't beat having a house with air heat. Turn the heat up. Boy, that is just such a good way of getting that finish to dry up so it's powder off next time we sand it. Yeah, believe it or not, it's a pretty nice day, and I want to get some of the sanding on this and maybe even get a coat of real silver on here. This is still silver filler, and I'm still picking away at some of the little spots that there was a spot up here I wanted to work on. And Kenny's out there sanding an obelisk, so we're really trying to take advantage of what amounts to be a halfway decent fall day to do the sanding outside. We don't have to breathe all this dust in. Now, believe it or not, this day has just turned out to be just awesome. This sanded right out. This less than an hour for the whole sand out. And I want to take and mix up some silver, real silver, as the final. It'll actually be the final coat for this. Robert's on his way over here with the wing, and I'm sure Kenny's out there sanding away. I just want to see how he looks. He's being punished. Ah, it's a beautiful fall day. And he's still sanding. It never ends. He really does want to be Jerry Sipra. Look, hold that up to the sun. Look at that yellow tissue when you hold it up to the sun. Oh, that's going to look nice in a wing over pull out. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's looking good. What a day to be sanding. All right, I'm going to mix up some silver and get some of this sprayed. Try to take advantage of what I hope is going to be a nice day here. Yeah, it's looking real good.
A more productive day than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, Robert's on his way over with the wing. We'll see if we can give him a hand, but I want to get my stuff drying. Just watch that doesn't blow away with the wind here. Yeah, that paint's powdering right off. You're in, baby, you're in. See, this is why you like to have all those radiuses. You notice how nice that feels when you go over the radius cap strips?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
when you don't do that, oh boy, when you don't do that, are you in trouble? Yeah, that's great. We'll definitely get some clear on this. What do you got, one more panel to do? What are you talking about, a half an hour or so?
No, just the fillets.
Okay, now, I suggested to Ken, you do the fillets by hand. Don't use a dowel. Reason is your finger is soft, you can get into the corners and edges and angles, and get them good and rough. The rougher the better. Don't try to do them with 400. The rougher they are, they'll leave a little mechanical tooth.
Powder.
Now before we put some clear on this, we're going to have to take the motor out, the cowl off, and I got to see if we have some auto primer for the cowl. I'll go down and see if we have some auto primer.
Well, I'm also looking around.
Yeah, any little spot you see. Did you do the clear the hinge lines yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
In the finish, you know, it's like doing this little fillet. We
Right.
didn't get it perfect when we did it.
Yep.
But then we had 5 coats of dope on it, and then the paper, and then more dope, and
Right, it eventually
it
fills
starts
in.
to fill itself in and look really good.
And as long as at this point in time you don't have any bubbles in this finish, just be always looking out for bubbles, and if they are, you want to get the little pinholes in them and get them knocked down with CA. The nose where the glass is on here is really nice. Unbelievable. I'm just amazed that we lucked out on such a nice day here. Very, very unexpected this time of year to have a nice day. Great day to have all this sanding done. It's so nice when you don't have to be by the sanding bench, sanding all this stuff out. Oh, what a mess. Unbelievable. Anyway, this is the second day our floating fish over there. He seems to be doing better every day. Real happy. Up, he floats again. Every time I go to say he's doing better, he starts floating again. But anyway, he does spend a lot of his time at the bottom of the tank, where he should be feeding. And boy, again, John, thanks for all the help. Wow. Oh, Ernie, come on, Ernie. Oh, man, look at this floating fish. Look, I can't believe this guy. He's almost done. We're ready to start some painting here. Take advantage of this good day. What did you do? You just roughed these out? Did you use the pattern that I gave you?
Here it is, right here. It's the pattern.
No, that's the pattern right there. You're right. You did the wrong thing.
Yeah,
of course it doesn't fit.
Yeah, but I measured like this.
This is the pattern here. This is why you had a problem. Oh man, I don't believe you did that.
Well, now you do.
But who drew this line on here? Where did that line come from?
Now this is what you drew. I cut this. I drew this line.
Yeah.
Well, this is the cardinal tip.
Here's what happened, Robert. Robert had a little misunderstanding. This is supposed to come to the tip. Okay, so by putting it all the way back here, then this hangs out over the flaps.
Okay, because when I had asked you, I said we're going to make the flaps all the way to the end. I didn't know the
Okay, but this is definitely not going to work. I don't even know how we can salvage that. You can't cut it. This looks like the tip of your next plane.
I guess it is.
What do you think?
Nice piece of wood.
Yeah.
Nice piece of
A wheel pant. You can make one wheel pant out of that.
Yeah.
All right. See if we can fit up a pair of these. Now, Robert has an old pair, and I gave him the old routine. Anytime you have old aluminum parts, Brillo, let's see how they're coming out. Oh, yeah, we could live with that. And then we're going to fit these up. Get some hardwood in by the bolts. The reason these are a problem, if you tighten these into a balsa wood fuselage, even with doublers, you need to have a piece of hardwood in between, like a piece of motor mount. So we're going to try to fit that up next. Get them clean to where you're satisfied with them, then we'll flatten the ends out. Now, one of the advantages, aluminum landing gear have a tremendous advantage if you figure there might be one chance in a million you're going to crash. These really act like a big shock absorber on impact if you do a low loop, a low wing over pull out. I've seen them save a lot of planes, so it may be worth it. And just any aluminum, scrub it with old Brillo, and then finish it if you want to do it fancy, or even with Gorhams. Coming out good, huh, Buck? Yeah. Okay, great.
Sometimes, because of the cowling, right, the fuselage is going to look.
On one side, you have a finished look. On one side, this has a finished look. When you turn the other side, there's a gas tank, a motor, and blind nuts and everything.
This is going to be here like this.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be, say, here. Well, they're going to be.
Yeah.
This is going to be here.
Right.
So when you look at the plane this way.
Well, what I'm trying to say is you're going to have a total.
Now, what you want to do, just go in and out with a brand new blade. Don't try to cut it. Just go up and down like it's a saw. Little by little, and then get the knife blade in here and pop that piece out. That would be the easiest way to do that. We've made a joint decision that Robert will have aluminum gear on his plane, basically to be crash resistant, crash proof. And the next time he's going to take this wingtip down to Rich Peabody's house. This is just a little misunderstanding here. You know, hit you on the head with this piece of wood.
Hey.
Are you Polish? All right, just get that piece out of there. I don't know what they're doing back there. I'm afraid to ask. Oh, making a wingtip replacement. Or they're trying to knock down some Cardinal wingtips. You'll find out your knuckles you catch your knuckles once or twice, you will never do it again. Be careful with that machine. If you catch your knuckles even once, you know that'll cure you for life. It's like slipping with an automotive wrench. You only do that once.
Like
No, just fold it back. That's all.
We'll just,
If you make the holes, you're going to be bumping into those lead outs for the all forever. Just fold them back into the wing. That's the way we do it. No problem. He's got this all figured out. Nice chips, by the way. Hey, great.
use them on my fireplace.
Use them in your fireplace. Okay.
put some milk
Get
on
these
those,
tips
have them for
straightened out.
breakfast.
No more reinventing the cardinal tip shape. Cardinal tip shape is a sacred item here, Robert. All right. There you go. Try to always contour. You want that whole thing to come to a point there. If it's a real cardinal, it's got to come right to a point. Hey, well, look at this guy. My God. Now, you took the tape. You still got the tape on there, right?
Yes.
When you get to the last little bit, I wouldn't even do it. I would hollow it out first.
Yeah.
And then when you put it back on, this gives you a little extra. But this wing is so nice and rigid. Now do the same, you see the same thing. In other words, you want everything to come to a point. It's time to take the John Brodak lead-out guide here, which is appropriate for this kind of plane. Let's assemble it. You got one line slider or two? This is with one. Okay, so you just need to put the bolt. Take that out of the bag, Robert. Put the bolt together. Let me see how you, yeah, okay.
Nice safe line.
Give them a big safe line to work off. Don't make yourself crazy. I know your time is limited tonight, so let's see if we can even just get this tip hollowed out. Would be a nice thing that you're one step ahead now.
Yeah, you think,
Do it just the way it shows you on a...
Yeah.
I think that'll be fine. Get these and we'll rough these out. You'll have at least one tip done tonight. What session for Robert, being he had to go to the doctor. He's got to learn to sacrifice his life to the cause.
And if you're not willing to give up your health,
But if you can't give up your health, your life, and your family, what are you doing in the world to stunt you? You'll never be a real cardinal anyway. Okay. All right, well, if we get the lead-out guide in there, that'll be real nice.
let's see, this got to go on this side here, right?
Now, you left this where the flap is, Ken?
Yeah.
This is where the, okay. And these are ready? I
Right?
need the one for this side. What I want to do, I want to lay this out right in that little slot. First I got to straighten it out. This one's been whopped already. And I want to take this over to the drill press and just drill the two holes. Now what I want to do is around the holes I want to sink a piece of motor mount in here. What happens with profile landing gears, when you're trying to squeeze, you're really just squeezing balsa wood. So what I want to do is take that chunk out where the bolts are going to go through and put a piece of hardwood in. In fact, I can put the hardwood in ahead of time before I even drill it out. And this will give them a choice of putting fiberglass landing gear on here, and we'll also know how this is going to work out in the final you know, little thing that we're doing on the plane now that we have two of them well under construction. You watch him do one, Robert, then you do one. Let Robert do one. Okay, while he's doing that, I'm gonna drill this piece out and get me a little piece of hardwood set in there. Okay, after a brief lesson, Robert is grinding away, baby. Go slow. If in doubt, go slow. You don't have to set the world's record here. Take a little bit off at a time and then feel how thick it is. I just want to make 2 hardwood plugs with the grain going end grain right through there. And as the bolts go through there, they can't really squeeze, a little epoxy to minute, of course, can't really squeeze this, and you avoid that lousy thing where every time you tighten a bolt on a profile, it just keeps sandwiching it in, it gets all distorted, and the gear are loose and flopping around. This will eliminate the whole problem.
Oh, you can take a lot more out.
Now, I took a piece of old scrap motor mount and just basically radius the corner. I'm going to fill this hole with epoxy, cut these off, and make 2 plugs. Okay, you're cutting a slot for the lead outs? Okay, great.
No more the videotape guy.
And I'll just grind these down nice and flat. This will be ready to drill a hole for the landing gear. You got that little piece for the little cap that's going to go on here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is an absolute must on a profile, boy. A couple of coats of thin CA sanded down. Seal that right up. I'm ready to spot the holes and drill the holes for the gear. Straighten this in a vise. Take that out. The holes look like this, but we need the bolts. You got the bolts? One lines up. Now turn it over, and if this one lines up, then you know. And we took that little kerf off of there. Just spot down, and if you see the holes, you got it.
Yep, this one lines
Okay.
up perfect.
Okay. Now get that little piece, and we want to trim that piece so you have like a little cowling sport on there. You got that little bit. You're going to have to take about an 1/8 inch off. So just sand an 1/8 inch off, glue this right on here, then we'll drill it from the back and then spot it from the top.
You want me to sand it now?
Yeah.
Should we?
And just take a little bit at a time. Just one little bit at a time. Don't try to take it all at once because we don't want to make this any thinner. Take another couple of swipes and come back. Okay, just if it's a little bit up, I take a little smidge more off and that's it. And then we'll glue that right to that piece. Okay, you see how they lined up now? Now you can put the bolts in there and then that'll hold it in place and you final sand this out with a block. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I know you're turning into a pumpkin here, so is Kenny.
Now I want to get that tip on.
All right, what are you ready to do on a tip here? What are we up to?
We have to put the lead out.
It's ready to put the lead out in?
Yeah, everything.
Did you mark it up?
Yep.
Okay, let's get that lead.
just-
Let's get that one tip on. That'll be about all we can do tonight. All right, that tip, basically he's going to pull all the tape off the tip. We'll be able to glue the tape on. So actually in a pretty short session we got the gear is squared away, the tips are done. You can go home and make the flaps now too. That's another thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This one's ready to hollow and you got to make a tip weight box so the next time we see you,
We should be able to.
and we'll just glue this on before you leave. All right, not a bad session. I'd say it was pretty decent.
How far do you usually? Do you have like a 3 inches or?
No, pull one out all the way. Now this one is as far in as it goes. Leave yourself enough room that if you screw up, you still can make one more cut.
So I'm going to pull this all the way out.
And then do this one. Leave 2 inches.
2 inches.
I mean, this is a small plane. It's going to fit in your... Then pull this one out and mark this one too. And don't try to make them even. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to adjust every handle for every plane. But
well,
that's...
I try to make it close as
Right.
possible.
Now here's the thing: when you get in neutral, okay, if you look at the push rod, okay, put a scribe on it, anything, a piece of, okay, a line. Now you know as far as it's going to go that way, make yourself a little dot. See, I put a piece of tape on there. Now go the other way. Put a dot where that winds up. There's your controls going between the 2 dots. Now you can figure out, measure it if you want, but it looks like, I'm not doing this right, measure it. And there's the middle. So when you bend the push rod, there you go. And you already got the horn, right? And the horn lines up here.
I don't have the horn for the.
All right, I'll get you a horn, no problem. Okay, but you understand? That's showing you where your travel is. It's pretty easy to find neutral. You're going to have to open this hole up a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, you got the nice travel. The tip is on. Get fresh glue and do a seam, and then do the final sanding in. You make the tip weight block, the Brodak tip weight box on that side, and that wing, actually the flaps in the horn, and you can get that monocoated.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to monocoat this one now.
Yeah, I want to see.
Okay.
I want to see him do it.
Yeah, we'll get Al Knight over here, and
I haven't figured out the color yet. It's either going to be white
okay. Well, we'll get Al to do a little demo.
or red.
Make 2 trips. Don't be a hero. You got enough done today in a couple hours, in 3 hours. Hey, always quit while you're ahead. Well, last thing we did was laid out where the fuse would go, laid out where the horn would have to line up. And that's it. All right. Back in action. Cardinal 1 to Cardinal 2. Okay, this silver's been drying up. This is the second day. And it never fails. When you put the first coat of silver on, you can see all little dry spots, all little imperfections. Well, that's why you put the silver on in the first place. And there's no substitute now, even though it takes a little bit of time. There's no substitute now for just sanding this off, wet sanding it off, get that real smooth buttery finish on it, get some 600 sandpaper. 600 seems to work well. If you really want to be a fanatic, you can go to 1200. The tail has some little dry spots. These are the things you're looking for. Now I know Rudy Rybeck, he's getting into his sanding the silver thing. His look beautiful. But never, if in doubt, sand off that coat and put another coat on. On the fuse where we did that little repair up in the front, it kind of went away. I don't know what the right word is. Little soft spots here. After sanding, well, it's always the first coat that's the most difficult. You're going to pick up the most mistakes in the first coat. After this coat, it'll sand out like butter. So let me get busy here. What I like to do is get the oldest of the bed sheets if I'm going to be sanding silver. Always another thing, get your old clothes on. Don't use your good Steve DeJulia t-shirt or your, I don't know, your Strager shirt or something. Because generally speaking, it gets to be a messy job. Not generally, it's always a messy job. Always start with one of the smaller parts, which will always be easy just to get in a little rhythm. This is the new can that M600 comes in. I got a fresh can here. I want to fill up the spray bottle, get out a clean paper towel, some fresh sandpaper. It's always at this point in time that you always get disappointed. The thing looks so good until you paint it silver. But I guarantee if you take the time to sand off 1, 2, 3 coats of sand, as many as you want. This is the point at which you can pick the level of excellence you want. If you're going to be happy with, hey, if you're happy with this, paint the plane. But if you choose to have that really, really world-class killer finish, right now is the time you have to pay a little bit of price. You have to make a little bit of commitment. And it's sloppy and dirty work, but see, at a time like this, hey, I can listen to the radio, watch television, I can talk on the phone. I can do this, if it was nicer outside, I could do this outside and go watch the fish, no matter what. But it's still a time that you have to spend. It's time. It's the commitment of making some time. Now, we've been trying to push Robert to do the same thing. Robert, he's trying to learn the basic skills of modeling and pick up on a lot of stuff, but he wants to get done in a hurry. Well, yeah, we all want to get done in a hurry, but if you want to go to that next level or have that little bit more rewarding look, nicer look, really the ingredient that you need to have is not money. The ingredient isn't a whole lot more than time. You just got to be willing to spend some time to do it. And that's what I'm gonna dedicate a lot of today to getting these parts sanded out. It's really a little bit too cold to paint unless it warms up. But it's always good to have them already sanded and ready to paint just in case it does warm up or if we do get a nice day tomorrow. Being ready. Now, the biggest kick in the ass is, and I've fallen for this trick, I say, it's freezing out there. I'll let it dry one more day. It'll be easier to sand. Then 2 o'clock, I poke my nose outside. It's a beautiful day. I could be spraying. So I run downstairs and I'm trying to sand, have the stuff ready to paint. When the weather becomes appropriate, you're in. It's really a good idea to have this done and sitting on the shelf, or even better, have it sanded, have it sitting up by the heating vent to dry. Now, I haven't found any substitute really for 600 sandpaper. So it's funny that the numbers are the same, and the degreasing agent. You can, and I've tried other agents. I've tried Windex, I've tried windshield washer fluid, soapy water. They'll all be a less good substitute than the M600. And the reason the M600 works is it evaporates. If you, to put this in a little soap dish and dunk a piece of sandpaper in, the stuff will evaporate in 15 minutes. So what happens is, as you're doing the sanding, the material is evaporating away. It's not soaking down into the part, and if you go through into a little piece of raw wood, it'll swell the wood. If you're doing it with soapy water, as soon as you go through any little spot, it's going to pucker right up. So my feeling is, unless there's some compelling reason, this is your best combination right here. Having this and some time, you can get those really nice after the second or third, and again, it's your choice how many times you want to go through this. The parts are never going to be perfect when you carve and sand them. No matter how carefully you do it, it's always the constant shrinking, expanding, and the wood finally settles down. Anybody that works with wood knows it's a live material. It would be impossible to sand wood and have it stay stable for any soaking, wetting, soaking, dryings. It's going to find its own equilibrium after time, and this allows you to get that really nice. I don't know of any other way. There's probably another way. Some of the ways people try to cheat the system is they put on 20 coats of clear and decoupage a plane, and it's tail heavy and too heavy and everything, but this is the magic trick right here. This is the combination that I've found works the best for me, and it works well really for low skilled people also. Now, there's really no substitute for being able to spray it on. If you put M600 in an ordinary Windex bottle, the Windex bottle will tend to deteriorate real quickly. You'll get the seal dried out because this is really a powerful degreasing agent. But when you get used to sanding this way, it'll dry. Now, that's already dry. That's already evaporated. You need to wipe away the excess. You need to wipe away whatever you want to call it, the slime. Give it another shot. Give the paper a shot. Again, anybody that has done this, it takes a little bit of a technique. It's a technique I've developed, and it allows you to finish a plane really at a very high level with a very minimum amount of material and weight. In fact, I'd like to finish President Nixon right now. And see, these are the little things that show up, the little imperfections, I call them dings. And this is a good time. Get out your little tube of, buy this at any body shop supply. Spot putty, take a little razor blade, just trowel a little bit on. And while you're sanding the next part, while you're working on this part, this could be drying and go right back over with a little sanding block. Fill in all the little imperfections. That's what the silver allows you to do. That's why it's worth doing. And this is definitely the best of all the spot putties, is the green I found to be the best. The part number is 05960. Now, a couple of tips for using this stuff. I always take an X-Acto knife and scrape out what sits in the lid. It kind of dries out. That last little eighth of an inch always dries out. Just take a little bit either on your fingertip. I like a razor blade, especially a double-edged razor. You can smear the contour real nice. It'll really minimize the amount of sanding you need to fill in a ding. Now, a couple of things never do with this material. Never, under any conditions, try to make a fillet out of this or try to repair a fillet. This stuff does not make good fillet repair material. It tends to shrink, and that's the problem. But for a little ding like that, it's almost perfect. Something like that is just a perfect, appropriate thing for it to be on. I think there was a little spot in the back here. Anyway, oh yeah, right here. Anyway, you can look around very carefully. Any other little spots you need to fill in, this is the time to be. There's one up here. This is the time to be just a little fussier than you were on the plane you did just before this. See, this material dries so quickly. And you will be able to sand this. I put this by a heating vent. By the time I sand out the tail, this will be ready to sand out. And you go right over that with silver. It's no loss at all. When you sand in a big flat area, of course, it's just a little bit easier. You can sand with a soft block, a sponge block. At this point in time, having a solid block isn't going to do you much good. If you don't have the wood already shaped, it's going to be a problem. You're really just trying to get a surface smoothness now. You're not trying to shape. It's a completely different thing. To be shaping and to be getting a surface smoothness is two completely different things. Try to get rid of all that extra sand away stuff. And it doesn't really take that long. It takes that long in the beginning when you get going, but once you get a little rhythm going, and you know how much you have to sand, how hard you have to press, it can really be, well, not quick. Quick is not the right word. But like the sandy amount we have here, I'd probably allow a couple of hours, try to detail it out, get the hinge lines, constantly wiping away all the gush. That's what this M600 allows you to do that other materials don't, is just get rid of that. And one piece of sandpaper like this is plenty to sand this whole thing out. You don't really need to be replacing the sandpaper very often. Now you can see it's kind of, even after that short amount of time, it's starting to come up right away. Just keep wiping all the gringe away. Seems to help. The side that the horn is on, when you're trying to sand it, of course, there's no way to grab it. But what I always try to do, if I have a way, is get some padding on a table, let the horn sit down. So you're on a nice flat piece of padding. And it seems to, at least for me anyway, it seems like all these little tricks of how to hold parts are extremely important too. And this allows you to get a nice smooth sand out. Of course, what you want to make sure you don't do is leave a little chunk or something on a table. It'll put little imperfections in it. But this just allows you to make some speed up. When you're holding it in your bare hand, you almost never can make any speed. That's the whole problem. Keep that stuff flowing right off. Get rid of it. Boy, there's such a good feeling when you get to this point. This is really starting to feel nice. Of course, it doesn't look so nice, but it really starts to have that velvety, I don't know what to even describe it as. You can start to see light run down the end of it. Velvety, smooth feel. Anyway, it really did turn out exactly the opposite as I predicted. It turned out to be a decent day to paint, so gonna fire up the compressor and get another coat of silver on this guy. Oh, look at that brand new shut-off switch. The most important thing is, right now I want to put on a coat of silver, but I want to put it as thin as possible. So I'm taking the silver that I already had previously mixed, adding a little bit of thinner. Again, this is not rocket science. This is just get an amount on here so we get a nice, real nice thin veneer coat on there. Because this might be the last coat of silver I have to, might be, I hope it is. And what I'm hoping for now is, because it's kind of a nice dry day, maybe it'll even dry up and tomorrow I can join the tail and get on to the next phase of this. I really just need to build a wing next. And again, constantly shaking the silver. If you don't shake it, at the end of doing one part, all the silver floats down to the bottom. This is decanted silver. Now at this point in time, what I'm trying to achieve is to get the thinnest possible coat of silver on there. I'm hoping, you know, you always hope of course, that I don't have a lot more imperfections to fill in. But the trick here is to get as thin a coat, as much pigment, as much silver material, that's why I decant the paint, onto this. Because hopefully this will be the coat that doesn't have to get sanded off. But even if it isn't and you go sand it off, nothing bad happens. But this gives you the little insurance that if this coat looks fine, you're pretty much ready to go on to the next stage of building. And believe me, if you don't learn anything else from watching my painting, there's one thing I can tell you. If this part was attached to the plane, this would be a nightmare to sand all these little angles and corners. Having it out in your bare hand, it's almost worth making a take-apart airplane just so you can do stuff like this. Now, since silver isn't going to be one of the final colors, we can perfectly live with that. That'll definitely be perfectly okay. Again, I don't want to put any more silver on in this last coat than I have to. Just a minimum amount of silver that it covers, and this will now be the base coat for my colored paint when the model's all assembled. Remember the whole trick, the minimum amount of silver. Not to put any on there that you don't need. Here's that body work. It's covered right up. That's the whole object of decanting the paint anyway, is to get that this coat is not a big, thick, wet, sloppy coat, but just a little veneer coat, the thinnest amount, until a part is opaque. As soon as it's opaque, you're done. I'm trying to spray this with about 15 pounds of pressure right now. Paint is very thin, and it's better to go back over it 2 or 3 times than to blow on one big drooly, drippy, heavy coat. In fact, I'm spraying so dry, the gun is, you can see the gun is getting clogged up. Constantly rotisserize it. Trying to take advantage of a nice day here. I didn't know that this was going to turn out like this. In fact, it's a complete surprise. And that's about what we're trying to achieve, is that really paper thin coat of silver. Again, I'm fine-tuning the gun to try to get just that minimum amount of paint on there. This is the one time you don't want to get a big, wet, sloppy coat on. You want a nice, thin veneer coat. It happens when you're spraying with very low pressure like this. You get a little buildup of paint right in the tip. In fact, I ought to get a pair of pliers and take this end off. Anyway, and clean the tip. Let the tip soak in thinner, which I'm going to do. It'll spray nice. The thing you don't want to do is jack up the pressure to 30 or 40 pounds where you're blowing on giant amounts of paint, because it's that giant amount of paint that makes the finish heavier and heavier and heavier. If you want to keep that weight way down, that's the only realistic way to do it. Keep the tip of the gun. Another thing you can do, and good tip, when you're not using a spray gun, just keep the tip of the gun soaked in thinner. Leave it in a coffee can of thinner. Especially if you have some of that old V thinner, that V36, use it up cleaning guns. See, right now, it's spraying, but it's not spraying right. And this tip will have to be cleaned. Worth its weight in gold anyway. I have a can of that old V thinner. Just agitate the part, let it sit in there when you're not using it. Give it a minute or two to soak out. As soon as you blow it out, almost every time it'll be fine. Again, these are these little tips that when you get a gun that doesn't want to spray right, oh my God, it can make you crazy. And it's only when you're spraying dry like this that it gets to be a problem. If you're painting a car, this is not a problem. You'll never have this problem. It's when you're trying to paint with real low pressure, this gets to be an ongoing problem. Now look at the difference in the way it's painting now. Good tip. Clean it right out with your fingernail. Good idea to have a little razor. I see some red stuff coming out of there. Most important thing, get a couple extra coats on the edges, all of these inside corners, hinge lines. Real handy way to hold it, by the way, with a pair of vice grips. Every little thing you can do to make your life easier. Extra on the edges, extra on the tips. You can see with the gun clean, much better coverage. Just don't get don't be tempted and suckered into getting the pressure way up high. That's the mistake that can kill you. Again, it's so thin that I can see through it from certain light angles. I'll just hit it from the other side. Still trying to get this really nice and thin. And I'm trying to go over any dry spots. And that's about the minimum amount of paint I can get on there to cover it so that I won't ultimately see down into the grain. And when this dries, I'm pretty well convinced this is going to be ready to put the tail on the body, and we'll start building a wing. But boy, the time you save by having a plane in parts, getting all this finishing done before you assemble a plane is unbelievable. Big help. This is a great tip. I don't even remember if I put this on a tape already. These little nylon stockings, these were sent in by John Pothier as a little way of straining the paint. Well, especially with silver, more than any other color, the silver is important to do this way. Now, especially with silver, it seems like more junk comes out of the silver than any other color. And they're cheap. These are the little stockings that they give you in stores to put on when you try shoes on. I don't really know the right name. John's probably told me 10 times and I forgot, but I'm sure everybody that's married the wife has some of these laying around the house, and they really do work well. And when you're all done, you look in the stocking and you can see some of the little chunks and things that tend to clog up the gun. Another good tip. I don't know if you can see some of the chunks that this filters out. It really does take some chunks out. Makes for a nicer and thinner coat too. And of course, when you're done with these, just chuck them. While I'm in here, I always take this little, let me get the cup on here. I always take in between loading up the gun, I keep a little razor blade here. Just clean out that breather hole. It tends to clog up because that's where your thumb usually sits while you're painting.
Same things happen every day.
Boy, it just turned out to be a spectacular day. Again, all the edges, double and triple and quadruple, all along the edges. Actually, I'm starting to get itchy to get the guy painted anyway. Hope we get a couple more nice days after we get the wing built. Really, you know, at this point in time, you really start wishing it was done and you could be painting it and laying out lettering and ink and everything. Get a little idea what that looks like. Yeah, while that silver's sitting here, just kind of look around here, trying to pick out any other little flaws that I need to look at. I think that coat of silver is going to do it though, and I think we're, let this dry a day or so, but we're pretty much ready to start building our wing. And you know what? It really does have the look of a cardinal. It has that look. I don't know how to describe it. I don't even remember who I stole it from, but it's a cardinal. End of the day, I want to just get this stuff inside. Boy, I'll tell you, this stuff is drying up nice. This is probably the quickest finish I've ever put on a plane. This really is going really quickly, and I think the silver filler is part of the reason. We've really cut out a couple of the steps, at least one or two of sanding, and this is really going to be a pretty plane when it's done, I hope. What I'm trying to do is grade out all my wood here. I want to get ready to start the wing. Again, this just takes time. Actually, this last batch of wood was pretty decent. I want to get the heavier of the sheets on the outboard wing, the lighter of the sheets on the inboard wing. I'm also trying to get what I hope is going to be a decent set of flaps for this plane. Now I'm trying to pick out the best block I have here. See, I only need 2 light wingtips, so I don't want to use up one of my really, what I hope is going to be a decent block. I'll use up one of the mediocre ones for the tip that's not going to have the tip weight box. Anyway, I do. Well, I wish I just marked it. How do I do? I put it back. I got one nice block for inboard tips, and then I'll take the heaviest of the ones that I have for the outboard tip. For the blocks that I have, I want to just verify the weight. I got one of the blocks that's 102 grams. The one that's 102, just to show you how significant this is, I'll get the inboard tip out at 102. I have one that's 140, obviously make the outboard tip out of a heavier piece of wood. So now I got the 2 flaps that I want to use, I got my 2 blocks, and I got a nice selection of sheeting to root through to use the A grain for the leading edge and see if I might not even have any C. Yeah, there's a couple of C grains. Getting my wood sorted out, so as soon as I have that day available to build a wing, I'll be ready to build a wing. Always strap up all your blocks too. By the way, this is another good tip. These will warp, especially in a damp cellar. If you tape a bunch of them together, they tend to stay a lot straighter and truer. All the wood that I'm going to need ready. And see, this is just one other little step I can get out of the way. Now I want to look in today's mail. I want to get the mail done. And I'll be one day ahead now as far as getting this out of the way. We're actually ready to start building a wing. I'm going through this one more time because there was enough sea grain in here. And these are all. I want to get them in order so the heaviest one is on one side of the pile, the lightest one is on the other side of the pile. You think this doesn't pay until you don't do it one time, and all of a sudden the heavy wood's on the inboard tip. I just, significantly enough, I got 4 pieces that are under 10 grams. These are 4-inch sheets. I got 4 pieces under 10 grams, so that's a significant amount. If they're over 10, I don't care. I just leave them over 10. I'll get out of here. If I could get 6, I'd be really in Fat City. So what I'll do is I'll take the 4 lightest ones. And let's see if these are all A grain. No, actually, I got 3 C grain ones. I got 2 C grain ones. So now what I need to do, I need one more C, 1, 2, no, I need A grains. Now I can go through the 10 grain pile. And some of them, look for them, make sure I got nice straight grain wood. Now in today's mail, glad I got all my wood sorted out. That was a big thing that was preying on my mind, because what I like to do is when I get started building or I get the table ready to do a wing, I like to get cranking. I don't want to be sitting here weighing wood. Anyway, this is from England. They're from Stephen Foster. And I'm going to read, this is a sad story. Now he's telling a long story here about how it took him quite a while to build this plane. And he had used cold solder, soft solder, I'm sorry, and I'm reading right off of his letter. Soft solder to make control horns. Well, I guess you know what's coming. And just looking at he's got the pictures numbered. He says, yes, It was a lot easier to make them out of soft solder than hard solder, and he goes on and on and on. It's like a 15-page letter here. Well, you know what happens when you cheat things like control horns and you try to use the cheapest possible technology. It's almost a given. On this size plane anyway. And you can see the damage. It's crashed. Body's broken, wing is broken. Another view. Again, this is the kind of stuff you hate to hear, but these are the lessons that are really difficult to learn the first time out. Is you can't soft solder control horns. In time, the vibration eats away at them, corrosion, whatever. In all the years we've made 1/8-inch horns, and I've encouraged people to use 1/8-inch horns, and I've harassed people that don't use them, it always seems like I'm the mean guy or the bad guy, but then when this happens, you know, then you look like a war hero. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, you can see he's got quite a collection of pictures here. He's documented this well, and I think he's going to do a crash repair for me. I hope. I've asked him to do one about how he lined everything back up. You can see it's really severe. The pieces are actually missing. This is really a major repair now. This is not a little baby repair. But anyway, just from looking at it, and then what I'll probably do is hang on to these. But this is the point I wanted to get at, and this is the part at which it really becomes interesting. He made himself a great little jig. Now look at this little jig he made on a level table for holding everything at 0, 0 while he put it back together. Now see, a plane like this, a real complex twin-engine plane, there's a lot of alignment has to go into it. Now from that little jig, and of course he's referencing off a center line, you can get an idea how he just one by one make the jigsaw puzzle go back to being in one piece. This is pretty much what we do all the time. And he's got a lot of the pieces. I'll bet he didn't put any more soft horns in there though. Anyway, now we get back to, I guess, the fun part. This is an interesting little concept too now. Pat Travers had this great little idea for a finishing friend. Well, I guess this guy in England, Stephen Forster, he beat him to the punch. And here's his twin-engine version of the finishing friend. Nice construction. Notice how nice and neat everything is. And here it is after a total repair. Just some of the other views. Now he also mentioned in his letter that he loved Chuck Holtzappel's twin. Well, you know something, Stephen? I like it too. It's an awesome plane. Anyway, Stephen Forster of England, I appreciate this, and we'll try to get some of this worked up into some kind of a little supplement for crash repairs. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's been a long day. The mail is heavy, and I got to go get some work done. At least we got a head start on doing the wing. Now, even though I've cut these out of 2 separate blocks of wood, I want to get the 2 lightest ones, and you would assume they come out of the lightest block, but you can't always take that for granted. I want to get the 2 lightest ones. Obviously, the 2 lightest ones are going to go on the inboard wing. Now look how much lighter this one is. Wow. One came out of a block of wood that was 40 grams heavier, and it's only 2 or 3 grams heavier at this end, because a lot of times a piece of wood will be heavier at one end than the other, so you really have to go back and you really have to check. There's just no substitute for just checking every time. And again, I mark the 2 lightest ones, and this is about all the prefabbing I'm going to get done tonight. But again, I can look at the 2 lightest ones. These 2 are the 2, they came from 2 different parts of the block. I can mark these inboard. Take the 2 other ones, mark them up outboard. And we're going to pack it in tonight. Enjoying watching these Reno air races, boy oh boy. I have it on tape, don't worry. If anybody's dying to see the 97 Reno Air Races and you missed it on ESPN, Wendy's got it. All you gotta do is ask. Okay, with that, I'm gonna say goodnight. It's been a good one. Anyway, we got a little bit ahead on our prefabbing, got some silver shot, and we're getting ready to make up another production run of kits. So the shop is getting busier by the day. See you tomorrow. Okay, this is dried up, actually dried up real nice. And I want to just go over it for a final time. I want to try to get the tail installed before I actually start the wing. I'm glad I got all that little preliminary work done on the wing. Maybe I can even get that zipped together tonight. Okay, now what I did, I slid this tail in. And I have some variation front to back. What I'm going to do is line this up right with the back. Check for my 90 degrees. Check for 90 degrees from the front, of course. And just tack glue it in place. Make sure, go back and check it, make sure it's 90 degrees. And then put a final glue seam on it. Again, I can get a very slight tweak on it this way. And of course I'll make a little piece to fill in there. Okay. And before I actually put any glue on this, of course if it was out, and it looks like it's pretty straight, if it was out, I would just need to sand the high side. Double check everything. I just picked up, I was down last night over at the Radio Shack, and they have some more of this clear Teflon tubing that I've been buying. And I'm trying to use up the end of the glue here. It looks like we're going to get about one more glue seam out of this. Again, I don't want to put a permanent joint here, I just want to tack it. And then after it's tacked, I want to check the alignment. And then I'll build up that little fillet. I'm just making sure I got 90 degrees on all the dimensions before I put a real glue seam on there. Now I can spin this over and just being real careful here, just put a drop on the bottom. Okay, now I can put a real glue joint in there. Wipe it with some Q-tips, and again double check that everything is 90 degrees. Now one of the things you want to really avoid here is getting the glue so wet that such a big bead that it runs down the side of the fuselage onto the rudder or something like that. Not that I've never done that. Okay. Obviously the key point here is to make sure this is right on center. And I've sighted that, made sure that's right on center. I got a permanent glue joint in, and now I want to make up my little balsa pieces to fill that in. Okay, now we got a really good permanent joint on all the surfaces. Now as I look around, there's a little imperfection down here. It looked like it was a little bubble, in fact, so what I did, I took the old number 11 blade, poked holes, and soaked it with thin CA and let it kind of kick off on its own. And I could block sand this down since I'm going to be working around making fillets in the back here. Again, a lot of this stuff, if I do it on an ongoing way, it's very easy. Fix things as you're going along before we even build a wing. We get all of this stuff taken care of. Then when you're working on a wing, you know that this can be drying, the fillets, we can be putting a filler coat on the fillets and all that kind of stuff. Take a piece of scrap, of course, Just get a rough idea of the length here. And I know the width is going to be again, this I'm trying to use up the softest, punkiest piece of wood I have for this piece. What I want to make a little relief on this so that it locks right into that little horn bushing in the front. What I want to do, I want to just trace on here the shape of the elevator, and I can take a little bit of that taper off before I even glue it in. And I try to get some shims in there to hold it perfectly straight while I do the same thing, the tack gluing, make sure everything's lined up. The shims are a good idea, and obviously you don't want to have any interference here. Nice clean fit. Now I want to make sure I got clearance all the way up here, even though it looks like I do. Sometimes, yeah, there's some little spot right up there needs a little clearance. In fact, there's a little bit of glue up in there. I didn't realize there was glue up in there. Anyway, just a piece of 320 sandpaper folded back on itself gives you that nice even clearance. I'm just trying to get a nice even glue seam in here. I want to take some light ply here and make my little radiuses. These are always best to make out of either plywood or hardwood. If you have some spruce, that's a nice choice. Otherwise, these get damaged when you sand them. Now, this is just one way of getting them in place. And let that kick, and as it kicks, just wiggle a knife blade off it. There's a nice little, this is a piece of 1/8" wire with some sandpaper taped onto it, wrapped around. Get in there and loosen that radius up. Little details like this, it seem like they take a long time to do, but boy, I think they make a real nice improvement in the final plane. Now also I can take the old machinist ruler, work that down in there. Now I just want to make sure we got a match here, that both angles are the same, real close to being the same. Again, the reason for making these out of plywood is to get that stiffening action, so it'll stiffen up the back part of the body and get rid of the stress riser that normally would be right here at the front. But any of these kind of filleting parts is always make this curve bigger than it has to be, because you can't get these little points and then Dremel the final curve in there. Now we know that'll match that little curve, so it should be a nice flow. We should get a nice flow in the fillet area back there. Get this front radius before you actually glue it on a plane. It's a lot easier to do it here. I want to get a smooth radius, and I'll be ready to mix up the aeropoxy, and we'll put one of those real nice aeropoxy fillets in here. I always want to check that they're both exactly the same. I have mirror imaging. A way to check for the alignment, what I like to do is just run some two pieces of tape parallel to the trailing edge. Not the trailing edge, the top edge. So I know I'm not canting these up or down. And I can sight right down the fuselage here and get some kind of reference line while I tack these in place. Once these are in nice and straight, needless to say, I can pull a tape off and start working on that little fillet in there. I want to make sure they're both straight from this dimension. I want to look straight ahead and see too. And that really stiffens up the body without adding a lot of weight. Time for the old Aeropoxy light fillet here. Before we even get the epoxy mixed, I'm going to get a permanent glue seam in here. Let that set up on its own. Let the CA harden up this plywood edge too. I'm just getting this final shape in here. I've just been trying to get, see, you can't really cut the plywood that thin. You have to make it oversized and then just taper it right in with sanding blocks, dowels, Dremel tools, whatever you think you can. But the reason this is made of plywood, again, we know we're going to have somebody with big paws get in there and launch the plane. Did you weigh it? Oh, you don't have the cowl and the motor in there enough.
No, I'll weigh those and add them in.
Oh, man, he's trying to jury rig this. How much clear is on here now?
Gee whiz, a lot.
Yeah. See, that's what I like, is you're going to sand it, not me.
We sprayed two very, very heavy coats.
Anyway, I sanded this all in by hand with a little dowel, and I want to put the masking tape on here now and run that little Aeropoxy fillet in there if I can. Okay, got this all made up. I can mixing up the Aeropoxy, and we'll get a, you know what we ought to try to use? One of those tongue depressor sticks, because I want to get a real small fillet in here. Let's try the old tongue depressor stick thing. Yeah, whenever you do Aeropoxy, it's got to be by weight, 2 to 1, so just get your 2 parts kind of ready, and give it that extra mix. Don't think it's going to be mixed. When you think it's mixed, 2 minutes more. We're going to need such a little bit. We just need a third of a spoonful. For somebody that doesn't know, never put, I heard this happen before. It took a little bit of hardener out, put it here, and said, up, too much hardening, put it back in the can with, with some hardener on it.
I've done that.
Next time you open the can, it's nuclear meltdown. You have an Aero rock. Okay, all right, get it. And just pack it in there. That little cavity that's in front of the stab, just pack some in there. This stuff is so light it doesn't even matter. It's probably as light as balsa wood. You just make that, you got that little spoon there, just spoon some in there to get started.
This Aeropoxy, it likes small fillets.
Yeah. Well, I want to see how small we can realistically make one and not have a, you know, a big deal to it. I don't want to add any weight back here. This is a lot easier to do now. Just picture if the wing was in the plane, how much easier it is to do this without the wing in a plane.
That's it.
Okay, great. Look, make sure it's even and we'll flip it over.
Go over this one more time right
The stuff sands so easy, I don't even bother trying to get the last little bit right. Like up in the front, just like we did in a Noble, just give it a separate coat.
here. It's fine, now it needs nothing.
All right, just flip it over, we'll do the bottom.
We need a block to...
You might have to get that with a razor.
Yeah.
Just use a little alcohol on it if you got any spots that are dripping. Don't wet it though. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm
just,
not even going to touch that. That'll
yeah,
come off.
and this other stuff you could just scrape off. Well, we should have used wider tape. I didn't know we were this sloppy. I thought we were better at this.
You never get any better.
Yeah, that's good. Just get the last. Make sure we don't have any dripping down in there. A good thing too, Kenny, is a razor blade if you have a little, the drools down in there.
Oh, those are clear. Little came
Okay.
off on the sandpaper.
All right, good.
Victory. Small victory.
Small victory, big war. Okay, we are done with this, and I am really looking forward to, well, we're going to start the wing, I guess, tomorrow.
Build a wing.
Time to build a wing. See you on the next tape. Well, it's coming along, Mr. Ken. Like it or not.
It's looking good.
Like it or not.
I think I'm going to have you build more of my airplanes for me.
It's got the Cardinal look, like it or not. We'll build a wing tomorrow. You going to be around all day tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, let's
All
build
right.
2 wings.
I'm ready. We're ready to build a wing. Can you imagine? We have arrived. Well, my friend, you better get busy sanding. I see a lot of sanding in your near future here.
Oh, no, no.
Oh, no.
It's ready for contours already.
Yeah, from every angle, it's looking good. Starting to look like a cardinal. And get ready, very soon coming, the new I-Beam Spitfire. Don't miss it at your local Ford dealers. See you on the next tape.